Do you know why story connects? Like reaches in and grabs people's attention? If you don't, hang out, because you're going to find out right now.
Welcome to the show. Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Welcome to Your Ultimate Life, the podcast created to help you live a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. You know, I was reviewing my mission statement this morning, and I don't know if it's normal or weird to have a personal mission statement, but I do. And it's really a vision, because I've got a vision and a mission. You know, I used to confuse those. Like, what's the difference between a vision and a mission? Well, I'll tell you. And this is at least how I define it, and maybe it's confusing for you too. A vision is the answer to the question, what does the world look like after I fixed it? Like, what is the big picture view of the world? When, what thing? Like, there is no more hunger. Everybody gets the vaccines they need. Illiteracy is ended. Whatever it is, your vision. The mission are the steps, the activities that you are going to pursue, not the day-to-day tactics and strategies, but the levers that you're going to pull to make that happen. And I just love that distinction. I learned that not too many years ago. And for many years, I thought they were interchangeable. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Today, I want to talk about a vision that I have, and it has to do with story, because that's what I said in the intro, that you're going to learn why story grabs people by the throat and other stuff doesn't do it. Here's my vision. My vision is I see 300 million people who have learned to embrace their WIPOS, worth, identity, possibility, ownership, sovereignty, your infinite worth, your divine identity, your limitless possibility, the truth of daily ownership, and the blessing that we have to be sovereign, the king or queen creator of your life. So that's first part. I'm going to reach 300 million people and help them see that. The second part is I'm going to build a university, the Ultimate Life University. It's already started. 2 of the 4 schools are open and enrolling and taking in students. And I have some enrollments in both of them. The Ultimate Life University, and I'll tell you what it's about in a minute, it's to help people create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy, right? So you can live this ultimate life I keep talking about. That's why I call it Ultimate Life University. And if you want to know more about any of these things, so then reach out to me here, yourultimatelifepodcast.com, and use the contact form, because I'll tell you all you want to know. Maybe it's right for you and maybe it's not, but at least you'll know what it is. And the reason I'm opening this university is to employ many, infuse love and hope in the souls of millions and be a fire for those who weep, a portal of hope, love, creativity, and power. And the 4 schools are the vehicles for that. School of Transformational Authorship and Creation. The School of Personal Sovereignty. Those are the 2 that are open. And the 2 that are coming in the next 6 to 12 months are the School of Transformational Leadership and Business and the School of Transformational Coaching. The reason for those schools is because they're the things I've lived, and so I know how to do those things. And the books and curriculum for those are astounding, world-class, top shelf, best in class. So that's the second part. Reach 300 million, open this university to employ many, infuse love and hope in the souls of millions, and be a fire for those who weep. And the third piece is I am creating 3,000 millionaires. 3,000 millionaires and 300 deca-millionaires, which is 10 million. And they're special. They're people who have created that money by choosing to serve with your divine nature, your gifts, and your life experience. So there are people that have gone through whatever they've gone through, and they've decided to be of service and offer products and services connected to that journey, the journey of their becoming. So that's what I'm doing, and that's my vision. And every podcast is connected to that. Now, we just had a Tuesday set of guests the last several Tuesdays that have been really interesting, and I've got more planned coming up in the next, in the future. And there's another invitation for you. If you have a story you want to tell, if you have a story of your own becoming, things that you have overcome and learned and done, areas where you are adding good to the world right now, I want to talk to you. I want you on the show because we can't share enough of those stories. We can't share enough opportunities and examples where people have taken the trouble and trauma of life and turned it into power, good fortune, blessing, love, kindness, and all the rest. So if you've got a story you want to tell, I want to talk to you. If you don't know how to turn your story into $100,000 right now, then this is for you. DreamBuildRideIt.com, because that's coming up in September, which is a couple of months from now, when I'm recording this. Will be a month or so by the time it's released. And Dream Build Ride It is a thing that I hold twice a year. It's a book challenge to help you learn how to mine your life. Mine like you're going into the gold mine, and figure out how to turn your life story, your becoming, your overcoming, your resilience, your power into a book, a business, and $100,000. Now, I've done that a bunch. I've done it with clients. And if you want to know how, there it is. Dream, Build, Write It. Go there. Anyway, today I'm talking more about one particular aspect of story. And that's the answer to the question, why do stories stick, motivate, and move people when regular information doesn't? Well, let's acknowledge a couple of real facts here. Are you drowning in information? Yes, you are. Every minute, there's 50 million things. Like you turn on the television, if you watch it, I try not too much, but if you do, you're inundated every hour with enormous numbers of commercials. Some of them are interesting. They're telling you about new drugs and new discoveries and new possibilities and new kinds of dog food, and it's less processed and cooler, and farmer's dog and the bricklayer's dog, I don't know, whatever. I've seen a lot of those. Well, not a lot. I've seen them enough to remember the name, farmer's dog, and whatever. So you're inundated with that information. You pick up that monster little device that captures so much of our time, if we let it. That smartphone, a smartphone that's making us stupid. Yeah, that thing. Flooded with information. My wife subscribes, my beloved. Got to be careful. Every time I say her name, Joy, I have to acknowledge that she's an angel. She walks on water. I love her with everything that I am. And she is just a precious angel to me. So that's true. And it's true every time I say it. And this is the millionth time. Well, probably not a million. Bunch. Way over 10,000, but not a million yet. Anyway, she's a precious thing. She subscribes to Apple News, which is one particular of 20 million news summaries, and therefore is always giving me tidbits of cool information that I either do or don't need to know. But again, it is another piece of how we are just inundated with information. And even though we're buried in information from the TV, from the internet, from TikTok, I laughed the first 100 times I heard the phrase, people are getting their news from TikTok. I laughed because I thought TikTok was like cat videos and people doing pratfalls and silly things and some amazing things. You seen those pictures of those guys? I haven't seen gals do it, but probably do. Taking these crazy dives off of rocks and climbing up walls and it's not AI, the real ones. Imagine there's AI ones too. But anyway, I thought that's where that was. I didn't have any idea that news, like anything that was valuable news, was on TikTok, but I guess people get their news from TikTok. It's now become an insult, meaning you don't care enough about something to find real news, and so you're satisfied with the news from TikTok. The sad part is people believe that. And all these crazy videos of people calling people names and flailing and lashing out crazily at whoever They don't happen to like that minute. And the proliferation of F words and F bombs and language and vile, it makes you want to go take a bath every time you see any of it. At least it does me. Don't like it, don't participate in it. And I know that 99% of it just isn't true. It's someone's deeply held, violent opinion, but that doesn't make it true. All right. So even though we are buried in information, you know what studies show, and you feel in your heart? We are starving for connection. Real, deep, meaningful connection. I want you to reflect on that for a minute. How many places or with how many people do you feel deeply connected? I'll bet it's not very many. Where you feel understood. And I don't mean where you all chant the same slogan. I see these crazy demonstrations of all kinds where they're all chanting the same slogan, and the minute one reporter or the other starts to try to engage with someone in just a conversation, it immediately deteriorates into name calling and, nothing. There's no connection there. Even two people that are standing beside each other chanting the same thing or carrying similar signs, there's no connection. You can see it in the energy. Whatever they're out there doing together isn't human connection. We're starving for connection, for true kindness, friendship, love, unity. That unity is disappearing faster than the dew, if there is any, melts off the sidewalk in Phoenix. When it's hot, it's funny, in this time of year, from about the middle of July to the end of September, so August, September, and half of July, they have in Phoenix what they call the monsoon season. And I'm not pretending that anything in Phoenix is a monsoon like you get in, Southeast Asia and India and those places. Those are monsoons. To call it the monsoon anyway. And the reason is because thunderstorms, sometimes every afternoon, happen with regularity. The circulation of moist air comes up from the Gulf and creates these thunderstorms in Phoenix. And they call it monsoons because sometimes they're pretty fierce. Rains really, really hard and literally can't see across the street. And lightning and thunder and flash floods, washes get full and, danger, that kind of thing. That's real and it really happens and I've seen them. And the reason I'm telling you this is after it rains like that, the day is so hot in July, August, and September that the water evaporates almost before it hits the sidewalk. Like you can watch the water, the line of evaporation just go literally that fast. It's just evaporating faster than you can walk back to, plain old white, dry concrete because it's so hot. That's how fast our kindness is disappearing. So information gives you content, gives you facts, although 99% of those are suspect. And I'm talking about the news, but even if we talk about something more durable, it's still facts. Information gives you facts. It might give you a framework. It might give you AI-generated answers, right? Those are getting more common now than peanut butter and jelly. Might give you 10 tips to do this, that, and the other. It'd give you endless posts, and there's no real connection. So information is infinite and becoming more and more useless, because then it begs the question of what does it mean? Information is cheap. Connection is sacred. It really is, that soul connection. People are going to forget tips. People remember a truth that's carried from life. So this gets back to story. As long as we've been alive, we've communicated our values, our truths, our learnings, our legends, our myths, our spirituality, our family traditions, and everything through stories. And stories are so much a part of our culture forever. Every culture throughout history, including today, have stories. Okay, so stories, you know what else they create? They create recognition. So when you hear a story about someone, or you read about a story about someone in a book, or you see a movie or a television program or something, you can recognize, oh, that's me, or, oh, that's not me. But you recognize it from the story. You recognize, you say things like, man, I know that feeling. Oh, I've done that. Or, oh, I've been there. Right? And that feeling comes from the story. One of the most powerful discoveries of a client when I'm working with them, and they tell me their story, and then I talk to them a bit, and they say, wow, I thought I was the only one. And we get the idea that we're isolated and alone, and when we hear a story that's similar, that resonates, that bounces around in our soul, resonates is that another buzzword, but it means I'm not the only one. And then when we see someone move through a story, then they can say, wow, I'm not broken. There's a possibility. I might see a way through this. Stories can communicate that. Information doesn't. If you're struggling with a particular problem, let's say a mental illness of some kind, you've got anxiety, you can hear facts and figures all day long, and it doesn't mean anything. You can hear a story of someone that feels like you. You can understand what they did in the story and see the change and eventual victory or partial victory, and you can see a way through. And it sticks with you 100 times better and longer than facts ever will. So what does that mean for you? Well, this whole podcast is about creating your ultimate life. Creating your ultimate life, purpose, prosperity, and joy means you choose a purpose, a driving, motivating purpose. Well, I'm just going to be a good person. That's not a purpose. A purpose comes from examining your own life, the good things and the bad things, the struggles and the victories, and you choose a purpose. You know what? I'm going to make sure no one else struggles the way I did with this. I'm going to make sure this happens. I'm going to use my experience to change this and this. I'm going to get a law passed. I'm going to start a movement. I'm going to start a club. I'm writing a book to express this so that I can help people. That's what it means to have a purpose. Prosperity is what naturally comes. And I want you to hear this, because people treat money like it's magic. It's not. Money is just energy turned into a form that we use for trade. That used to be, beans and buttons, and then it was coins, and then it was paper money, and now it's electrons. It is a representation of value that we trade. So if I write a book, and I've written 24, and you buy it, you give me some money, and I give you this accumulated value, right? And you believe that it's what you need. And if you go to the store and you buy, we've done this, Joy and I will go to the store and we'll buy something, a basket of tomatoes, and she gets it home, she opens it up, and they're soft and they're not very good, so she traded money for that, and the value wasn't there. So back to the store, and you take your money back and give them the product back. Money is just the way we trade value. That's all it is. So creating prosperity is not difficult, and you can be mad at that if you want to, but making money is not hard. And if you don't know how to do that, if you don't know how to make money, YourUltimateLifePodcast.com contact form, get a hold of me. I can tell you how to make money. I can tell you 12 ways right now to make money with your story. Hear me, 12 ways. 12 ways to make money with your story. if you're willing to do them. They don't just happen like Harry Potter, but I know 12 ways. There's probably more. So, and it's easier now than it's ever been, which is fun because of the internet, because of social media, and because of the ability to put books on the market all over the place. I got a picture this morning. This morning, I got a communication in WhatsApp or Signal or something from someone that I'm connected to. I've met once or twice. And it was a woman. She put a picture in there. Look what I'm taking to the beach to read. It was a copy of one of my books that she had apparently purchased and was off to read it today at the beach. That's an accumulation of money, but it required that I write the book. Now, I have found that it's easier and easier to write those books. With the advent of AI, and I say this very carefully, it has become much easier to write, not because AI writes for you, but it is powerful and useful as an organizing tool and a way to keep your thoughts, keep track of your thoughts. You know, I forget things and I can speak them all into AI threads and ask it to help me keep organized, and it does. And it reflects back to me a distillation of what I've said that's not always, but usually really good. And I can use that to help me do faster, not to replace research or brains, my own brains, and it certainly isn't going to replace your lived experience. So back to the title, what captures people about story? Well, first of all, truth. If you're making up stuff, that's not what I'm talking about. If you're lying or exaggerating, not talking about that. Now, we can build fantastic stories that are captivating and interesting, but we know they're stories. So guess what? I'm writing a fiction book. My first one, and I'm nearly done. First draft's long done, and I'm about 85% of the way done editing it. One more week from the time I record this. So by the time this is released, it will be with the publisher and on the way to being available in bookstores near you. And I'll tell you about it when it's getting closer to being done, being published and available, and I'll ask you to check it out. Maybe you'll like it, and I'd love to know. But anyway, a good story that is the kind that serves, the kind that helps you create purpose, prosperity, and joy comes from your lived experience. So it carries truth. It has emotional veracity, because it feels real and it engages people, not everybody, right? The story of your becoming is going to interest a great number of people, but not everybody. People that resonate with your experience. Story captures people because it's a mirror. We see ourselves reflected in them, okay? Story is not, and I'm talking about your story now. I mentioned something about fiction, but I'm really talking about your own personal story, the story of your becoming, your challenges, your struggles, the things you've overcome, and who you have become because you overcame them. So it's not self-focused when you're here and sharing it to serve. The listener enters through the portal of your story and sees their own life. That's the key to making it valuable. When you share your story with me, and I see myself in one or more of the pieces and details, I enter the portal of my own growth. I enter the land of my own possibility. How did I do that? Through your story. It creates a connection between us because we have a shared experience, and it lets me see the possibility of growth and change. Here's another thing that story does and why it captures and draws people to us. It creates a level of safety. And this is super, I know I said it 3 times, super powerful. It creates safety. I am not the only one. I can't tell you, I can't count the number of either just people that I've met casually, people I've met in networking settings, people that I've met in this potential prospects and clients when we talk about life and things that have happened. I can't count the number of people that said, I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only one. I thought nobody had an experience or experiences like mine. I'm so grateful I'm not alone. It helps people open up when they have felt judged. It helps people realize there's a path forward when they've felt managed or lectured to. Story just shares the emotion and the experience. What it shares, again, I'm talking about the story of your becoming. It shares these truths. I have been human too. I have struggled too. I've fallen on my face also. I have failed. I haven't always been successful. I did not always know. I am not standing above you. I'm standing right here with you. Sharing stories creates humility and connection. You know that. You've seen movies or read books where you feel just a kinship with one or another person, the protagonist, the antagonist, right? And here's the thing. We have this wrong idea that in order to be a leader, we have to be above, better than. That's not true. It's backwards. You are more powerful and more helpful, and that means you can make money because people pay for help solving problems. You're more helpful when you're standing next to someone. You're with them and they feel your presence and your encouragement. That's the power of the connection. Story removes that false distance between the teacher and the student, between the coach and the athlete or the musician or the business owner. When I coach, I got clients all over the world, many countries. When I coach, my intention is to coach hard and tell the truth and be a reflective mirror. And I'm not there to commiserate and to be a shoulder to cry on or anything else. But I am there to share the truth of our common experience. And when the stories that they have or the experiences mirror things that I've done, I can be with them energetically, and they know that, and give them a mirror to see not just what's happened, but the truth of their own divine capability to overcome, the truth of the infinite resource that lives within them that they haven't tapped yet. And so I'm talking to you. You have infinite resource in you that you haven't tapped yet. You have the ability to change the world. You have the ability to live in purpose, prosperity, and joy. And if my saying any of this makes you realize you do have something to share, you do have a story you'd like to get out to the world so you can create service and prosperity and live in joy because you're doing good and adding good to the world, yourultimatelyfepodcast.com. Use a contact form. Let's talk. One of the greatest joys of every week that I live is my opportunity to meet new people and hear the amazing stories, the amazing resilience. And every time without fail, I'm drawn in to their life. I'm pulled into their story. Not to, oh, that was so terrible, but to see their brilliance, their resilience, their divinity and capability. Because, sometimes we get locked up in things that happen to us and we lay down and want to quit. I get that. But you don't do that very long. A day, a week, a month, a year, maybe a decade even. But at some point you say, you know what, I'm done. I am done. I'm going to get up. And that moment where I'm done, I'm going to get up here. And even if I stumble, I'm moving forward. I'm not staying here anymore. That story, that piece of your story of becoming, that's worth $1 million. It's worth saving 1 million lives. It's worth making a difference. And in order to turn that into truth, you have to share it. You have to do something with it. And I love hearing your story. And that's why I do this book challenge, Dream, Build, Write It, because that allows me to hear and marvel and wonder at your story and the things that you have overcome and done. Your story can be the bridge. Your story can be the path. It can be the light in the distance. It can be the hope that someone thought they couldn't have. And you have to share it in order for that to be true. Now, I'm going to talk about some facts about what storytelling does in our bodies and in our minds. Stories create memory and meaning. What I mean by that is Sherlock Holmes was famous. I realize he's a fictional character, but the technique is real for being able to remember everything in great detail. He used a technique called the memory palace. A memory palace is an imaginary thing in your mind where some memory, you put it in a certain place, in a filing cabinet, on the table. It appears a certain way. It's a marker, and you put it there in your mind. And the technique works because when you go back into your memory palace and to those places, you see the markers. Information doesn't do that because it doesn't carry any emotional fire. The reason we remember story is because it carries emotional fire. It carries meaning if we allow it. Now, if someone tells us a story and we don't care about that or recognize any of it, it doesn't sink in, and it doesn't carry that fire with us. But I can promise you that there are at least 10 million people right this minute, who resonate with your story, your choice, your decisions, your path, but they don't know it. So they don't have a chance to flock to you as a leader, as a light, as a potential servant where you would serve them. And people pay for that kind of help. They pay well for your books, your products, your programs. Whether you turn into an official coach or not, like I am, doesn't make any difference. Your story matters so much, and because the story part carries emotional power. Information doesn't carry emotion. Information's just info, data points, and so forth. Story allows us to create meaning and reach into our hearts. And, maybe it's a tearjerker, or maybe it makes you mad about something. Maybe it makes you committed to change. Maybe it makes you want to go to your city council or vote. Or maybe it makes you want to go volunteer at the school or in the community. Or maybe it makes you want to look inward at your own life and say, wow, am I doing that? Am I that? And you ask that question because it resonates. Information doesn't do that. A concept may be correct. A story makes it portable. We can remember stories. Think about something as simple as The Wizard of Oz, The Yellow Brick Road, and The Tin Man, and so forth. The story around those things, the yearning for the scarecrow to have a heart. And that's just one story. And as I say that, you're going to think of a parallel story or one that mattered to you. So here's some examples. You could say the words to someone, you need to take ownership of your life. Okay, I need to take ownership of my life. Here's another way to think about it. Tell a story where a person taking ownership changed the game. That will stick with someone. Let me give you another example. Football movie, a sports movie, right? It can be the high school team, the college team, the pro team, doesn't matter. You can say to someone, give them a speech at halftime when the football team's losing or whatever, and in that halftime, the coach, if they're good, is able to capture through story the emotional essence of taking ownership of the game. The team decides collectively to take ownership. They show up and they play differently and win the game. Now, you've seen 100 of those, right? It doesn't have to be sports. It can be a person in a battle of some kind, rising to the truth of their own divinity. It can be a person deciding that they're not going to give up. Can be the scene at Helm's Deep where, Aragorn and the other guys ride out against the bad guys. Those things are inspiring because they connect with the yearnings and truth of our lives. And when we see them in movies, we swell, maybe we cry, we just feel like that, right? And it's in your heart. It's in your life. It moves you and me like that because we say, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. I am that. And we're not sitting in Helm's Deep or some castle, but we're sitting in places in our own life where that kind of choice is on the line, where it's time to move and to choose, where it's time to stand for something. And that story has grabbed us by the throat or by the arm and pulled us into reality. There's another thing. We can say, forgiveness matters. You need to forgive. It'll unburden your heart and it'll make you feel way better. That's information. Or you can tell a story that illustrates where someone chose to do the difficult work and forgive, and the context and everything changed. The world changed around them, and you see it and feel it, and you get to participate in emotionally. That's what the stories do that just words can't do it. Okay? I can tell you, and I will, if you come to dreambuildwriteit.com, write the book. And that won't matter to you. You'll say, I don't have time. I don't know how. My story's not worth it. All the same things you've said before. But if I show you, and I will, examples of when someone chose to say yes and it changed them just in the writing. That's the beautiful thing about writing a book. The first and most important transformation is you as the author, confronting and telling and analyzing the story, the precious truth of your own becoming will change you profoundly, deeply, and permanently, I promise. Every person that goes through this, profoundly, deeply, and permanently, it changes what you believe about yourself, it changes what you know you can do, and it changes what you then go do. Absolutely, profoundly, and permanently. And that means creating purpose, prosperity, and joy. So those are just some examples. Story is a truth given a body. It is something that's important, that's said in words, but it's given an emotional engine and fire. A principle you're trying to teach without a story evaporates. You're all familiar with the white and dark wolf story, right? Where an Indian chief or grandfather's talking to his grandson, and he talks about the two wolves inside. And the son says, I always feel like I want to do two things. I feel like there's these wolves. And the grandpa says, there's a white wolf and a black wolf, and they're fighting. And the kid asks, which one wins? And grandpa says, the one you feed. Now, the principle is really simple. The things you pay attention to, the things you give energy and life to in your heart are the things that create your life. That's the principle. The story about the wolves struggling for supremacy and fighting and the need to feed an animal, in the native culture, they were going to be feeding their horses and dogs and animals and maybe wolves, whatever. And so that becomes visceral. It becomes real. It captures the heart. So that's a perfect example of a story. A principle without a story, it just evaporates. Story is how a truth becomes memorable. So back to what I said very, very first. If you want to know how to grab somebody and get them and have them know and believe and connect with you, learn to tell stories. And the most important story you've got, whether you like me saying this or not, is the story of you, your own becoming. How did you get through all the things you've been through to where you are today? A beautiful, capable, determined, powerful person who's yearning to add good to the world, who knows and is committed to living in purpose, prosperity, and joy. You deserve it, you can have it, and you can start right now. If you want help with your story, dream, build, write it. If you just want to understand more deeply how to live in purpose, prosperity, and joy, just reach out and get a hold of me. YourUltimateLifePodcast.com, the contact form. I love meeting people. It's my bread and butter. It's where all my clients come from, but it also fills my soul to meet and see beautiful people. This week was extraordinary. I happen to be recording this on a Saturday, but this week there were at least 7, 8 new people, brand new people that I met. And it was so rewarding to hear who they are and what they're doing. The stories you tell, you're willing to share. Those are the truth of your life. And meaning, the meaning sticks when it's got flesh and bone on it. The other thing that story does is it creates movement. Okay, when you hear a story, you're more likely to move. When you share your story, your readers or your prospects, they are more likely to buy and then to use what you have sold them, because it creates emotional momentum. Those are documented facts. That's just not Kellan talking. People move when they feel seen, when they feel understood, when they feel heard, when they feel loved, when they believe change is possible, when they recognize their own details and their own destiny and their own desires. And there is no better way in the world to communicate and light up that fire in someone than with your story. So as you sit there, you might be thinking, I have no story. I have nothing to share, like you're talking about, Kellan. And the answer is you do. Whether you use it or not is up to you. Whether you know how to find it or not is up to you. But I am the world's best expert at helping you mine your life for story and turning it into a book or products and services that you can use to serve and be thrilled with the difference that you can create. The right story is not about manipulation. It's not about convincing. It's not about books or sales or coaching or, consulting or speaking or trying to push someone in to something. It's about awakening the change possibilities and all those things that I mentioned, books and sales and speaking and consulting and courses and leadership. Those are the vehicles that you can use to change. So you might want to be a consultant, a leadership consultant. You might want to sell books. You might want to speak. You might want to coach. You might want to create courses. All those things are yes, please do. And they matter the most and will make you the most money and help you make the most difference when they come from the truth of your story. Everything else, we're just talking about something we know how to do, we've learned about. The story of your becoming is who you are. So your books and your sales and your courses and your speaking and your consulting and your coaching and your leadership and your direction that come from that are invincible. They will capture people's hearts, and if you're selling things, their wallets, in an ethical, beautiful, empowering way. Okay? Story turns attention into trust. It turns possibility into movement. It really does. I've done it. I see it. And when you tell the truth, which I'm assuming you are, an invitation feels like service. So I want to invite you now, 3 things. If If you have a story to tell, dream, build, write it. Let me help you write a book. If you want to share it on the podcast, yourultimatelifepodcast.com, use the contact form. Your story is the most valuable asset you have. It's more valuable than the gold in your wallet, the money in your wallet, the gold in your safe deposit box, or anything else. It is the substance, literally the substance of your life. If you choose to bury it, it won't do anything. If you choose to use it, it will be an incredible, irreplaceable tool that will help you right this minute move from where you are 20 steps, 100 steps closer to living with great joy your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, yourultimatelife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet on